Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. And if it's Tuesday at 1 o'clock, you're on Facebook Live, MOED, live on the one. My name is Jimmy Smith. I'm a career navigator with the agency. I work out of the Mondawmin office, the Northwest Career Center. Today, I have the pleasure of working alongside the manager of the Northwest Career Center, Antonio Logan.
Hey, Jimmy, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Good to be
Very
on with
good.
everybody.
Good. So you want to tell everybody about yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Antonio. I'm the workforce manager at the Northwest Career Center at Mondawmin Mall. We're here, of course, to assist in any way that we can to make sure that we get as many folks employed as needed, especially during this difficult time. Some of you have probably used our services before, but we want to make sure we let you know that we're still able to deliver services virtually now. So we're excited to get to work.
Great. So thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about interviewing. This is a strange environment that we're in right now, but companies are still hiring. So we're going to talk about some ways to help you with your interviewing skills to try to get these jobs that are available. And so, as I said, we're still operating. We're working virtually. All of the centers are physically closed. So if you're interested in services, we'll give you a link on how we can help you and assist you because we're still here for you. But right now, all of our services are being offered remotely. And as I mentioned earlier, employers are still hiring. So there's several ways that you can interact with us and we can help you find employment. One is that you can get these job leads emailed to you. So as employers are looking for people, they will send us the flyers for the job, and we can distribute those to you. So if you're interested in that, send an email request to jobclubnwcc@oedworks.com and ask for us to send you the flyers, and we'll definitely get on that and send that to you. Also, jobs are posted on our Maryland Workforce Exchange, and that's mwejobs.maryland.gov. And that is a site that functions somewhat like Indeed, where we list a bunch of different jobs. Employers go on there and post jobs. And there's a wealth of information. I'll kind of touch on some of that stuff in a little bit. And so that's a great resource for you if you are interested in obtaining employment at this time. Also, in addition to that, we have a now hiring job board, which is with the image that you see right there. It's on our Mayor's Office of Employment Development website. There's the link there for it. And so these are jobs that employers have immediate needs for. They're hiring right now, and they post those jobs. And so those jobs on that page get updated regularly, daily, in fact. And so if you are interested, go and check that board out. There's a lot of jobs there. And there are also contact people, some of my colleagues who work directly with these employers. And so all you have to do is reach out to them, and they will try to help you to get into some of these opportunities. In addition to that, on Wednesdays, same time that we're doing this right now at 1 o'clock, we have a virtual recruitment. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But my good friend Bill Carnes and Katanya Lester, they will have a recruitment with employers that come on and talk about the jobs that they're hiring for right there on the spot. These are just some of the jobs that are listed on our COVID-19 job board. Some like compassionate healthcare, looking for registered nurses, licensed practical nurses, certified nursing assistants, waste management. Waste management's always looking for diesel mechanics. 3-tech staffing. It's looking for warehouse people and manufacturing folks, so filling operator, general factory worker, and line leader. Tolkoff. They are looking for blenders, second shift line leaders, and second shift maintenance mechanics. We also have ShopRite on there. ShopRite's looking for bakery clerks, cashiers, deli clerks, cake decorators. There's a ton of different opportunities on there. There's the link right there. There's so many more. I didn't want to list them all. I just wanted to list a few of them. There's so many jobs on there. Go on and take a look and see if any of the jobs are for you, and reach out to the business service rep that's working directly with that company and see how you can get employed with them. So I mentioned earlier about the Maryland Workforce Exchange. It's a great resource. Again, the link there is mwejobs.maryland.gov. It is a way for you to go on, create a profile. You can create a search agent that will look for jobs for you, and then when it finds jobs that match what you requested, they'll email them to you. They'll help you find jobs on the job market. They'll help you determine what's a good career for you, how much those jobs pay, how to apply for those jobs. And then there's specialized events that we have throughout the city, and it's a great way for you to register for a lot of the events that we have. So if you're interested, and my employers go on and they post jobs, so there's jobs on there all the time. If you're interested, there's thousands of jobs. Go on and take a look, see if those jobs are for you.
So we got the job search options here from MWE. Jim, you just talked about some of these. So one of the biggest pieces with MWE is the job search. That's one of the biggest draws, of course, that folks go to the website for. You can the three of the most popular ways to do that. Number one is location. So you can search literally by whatever location you want your next position to be in, whether that's Baltimore City, Baltimore County, whatever county or city that we have, whatever locality. You can even search for smaller areas within those localities. Whatever the employer puts in as their particular location, that's where that job is going to pull up as. The second piece is a job order number, and especially in our job club sessions, you'll see a lot of job order numbers that we discuss. Sometimes they'll be between 5 and 6 digits. So make sure that you write those down. You can always go back to any of our job club videos and review them at any time. They're always stored on our agency's Facebook page. And if you aren't able to do that, you can always request to have those job leads emailed to you. And so those email leads will include the job order number for the positions that are listed in the Maryland Workforce Exchange. And so you'll literally just copy and paste that job order number, and it will take you directly to that specific job that you're looking at. The third piece is keywords. So you can search by the title. You can search by words that may be in the description. If you're looking for a warehousing position, you can literally type in warehouse, and it will pull up any positions that have warehouse in the job title or in the job description. You could type in laborer, and it'll pull up any position that has laborer in the title or description. So all of these methods are really, really good, depending on what particular positions you're looking for or what area you're looking to work in. So please make sure you go to the Maryland Workforce Exchange and check out some of these options, and you'll see again that website linked below, which is mwejobs.maryland.gov. So please make sure you check that out. Go set up that profile that Jimmy talked about just a couple seconds ago, and make sure you get down to some of these job search options.
Great. Thanks, Antonio. Doesn't take long to register, maybe like 10 minutes. If you don't have a resume, you can go in. It'll help you craft a resume. If you do have a resume, you can just attach your resume to your profile, and it'll be there for employers to see. So that's great. So one of the particular jobs that's hiring right now is the community health worker. And so the Baltimore Health Corps is looking to recruit, train, and employ more than 300 residents who are currently out of work because of this pandemic. And they're looking to fill roles as contact tracers, care coordinators, and community health workers. So there's the link there to apply for them. Right now, they need contact tracers. So if you are unemployed and a Baltimore City resident, this is a short-term opportunity that hopefully will lead to a long-term opportunity. And so if you're interested in that, you're going to send us a request on our service request lines, bit.ly/assistance requests. There you go. So most of the time, if you need assistance with your resume, interviewing, direct one-on-one services, that's the link that you're going to use. But also you're going to use it in this case if you're also looking for contact tracer employment. So definitely utilize that. They are starting to bring people on. And this is a really good program, and it's very helpful. You can help the city out with this health pandemic.
Definitely, Jimmy. And again, as you stated, one of the biggest pieces is that there are a lot of positions available through these opportunities. So, and even the contact tracer piece, there's a short-term training that's included on the front end of that. So, if you feel like you're not up to par on that, there's going to be a really short-term training that will get you to the place where you need to be, and then you'll go right into that contact tracer position. So, please make sure that you don't hesitate to reach out to us, complete that online assistance request form, and make sure that you notate that you're interested in either the contact tracer or community health worker position.
Awesome. So let's get into interviews. Let's assume that everything goes well and that you do find work and that they bring you or find an employer that you're interested in and they're interested in you. They bring you in for an interview. And why are interviews so important? And in my opinion, it's probably the most important step in the hiring process. It gives the employer a chance for them to assess your suitability for the job, to see if you're a fit for the culture there. And a lot of times we look at it as if the employer is, screening you for the job. And a lot of times we miss the opportunity to screen the employer to see if that's really where we want to work. If we get a good vibe, if the description of the job matches what we thought it was going to be. And so a lot of times up till then, the employer only knows who you are by your resume. And so this is an opportunity for them to really take the resume and put a face with it and also a skill set. And so, like I mentioned before, interviews also give the job seeker the chance to see if this job is for them. So you want to utilize that opportunity to screen them and see if this is really where you want to be at long term. So there's some things that you should do in preparation for an interview. The first thing you want to research the company. And that's normally going to be done on the company's website. A lot of times you can go to the company's About Us page and find out, what they value. A lot of times they're going to tell you things they do in the community, their mission statement. It doesn't take long once you read those things to figure out exactly what this company stands for and if you're a good fit for them. A lot of times doing research, we'll see what the expectations of the company is, what they expect you to do, what skills do they expect you to have coming in the door. And that way you can kind of see, hey, this is what I need to talk about in the interview. It's great to talk about that you love dogs, but that's not going to help you get a job at Amazon, right? So you need to understand the culture of Amazon and the skills that Amazon wants you to possess so that when you sit down with them, you can express those skills and they don't have to pull it out of you, so to speak. Also gives you a chance to research the interviewer. It just might be the case that the interviewer, the person who's interviewing you, might be someone that someone that one of your family members know. A lot of times I tell people getting hired isn't what you know, it's who you know. And so this is a great opportunity to find out some information on the interviewer. Maybe they went to the same school that you went to, or school that your friends went to, or a relative, and maybe you can connect it that way. Another thing to do in preparation for an interview is create a cheat sheet. A lot of times, there's a lot of things that I want to say, and when you sit down in an interview, things move so fast that you forget those things. So create a cheat sheet so that way you can organize your thoughts and you don't lose track of important things you want to say, such as, hey, you went to school with my cousin, or whatever the case may be that you found out in your research. Write it down. So that way when you have it there, you can always refer back to that. Nothing wrong with going into an interview with notes. As a matter of fact, when the employer sits down with you, they have notes. So there's no reason why you shouldn't have notes as well to help you organize your thoughts and stay organized. Another thing you want to put on your cheat sheet are the questions for the employer. A lot of times, a lot of these interviews wrap up with, so, do you have any questions for me? And a lot of times, we're just so nervous to get out of that interview that we're just ready to go. Nope, I don't have any questions, or we might want to be cute and clever. When do I start? That's not really what you want to ask. Take some time, develop some really good questions. We'll talk about some of those a little bit later on. Write those questions down so you have them there ready in notes so you can prepare for it. Prepare your documents, copies of your resume, copies of your cover letters. Yes, you're going to need your cover letters. Make sure you take your cover letter to the interview, and make sure you have reference sheets. People who can validate your history, your work history. Have a reference sheet already ready to go, and don't wait for them to ask you. Present that. Here are my reference, so that they know that okay, this person is legitimate, and I can check some people, some of the sources to make sure that's the case. Also, as you're prepping for an interview, make sure that your transportation is reliable and that it'll get you there at least 30 minutes early. There's nothing worse than being late to an interview. Okay. It's better to be early than to be late. And right now, I know we're in this COVID world where everything is different. So a lot of what we do now will be virtual. And if that is the case, you still want to be prepared and you still want to be ready in the room a little earlier, maybe not a half an hour before, but a little earlier than that. But if you have to report to a location, make sure that you arrive 30 minutes before you have to. And the last thing you want to do in preparation for your interview is to clean up your social media profiles, your Twitter accounts, your Facebook accounts, Instagram. Over 70% of employers, before they hire someone, they will check your social media posts to define who you are. Uh, Whether that's right or wrong is a whole nother conversation for another day. The fact of the matter is they do. It's social media, so if you put it out there, you kind of get what you get. So employers are checking your social media profile. One of the quickest things to do is just lock it down so that people just can't go onto your page and see all of your posts. Only let your friends see what you have on there, and that's the quickest way to kind of prevent them from snooping all into your business.
Great points, Jimmy. It's really important, again, make sure, guys, that during this virtual time, that we are at least going into opening up our webcams, our whatever chat platform that you're going to be using. Make sure that you like the way that your area looks. Make sure that you like to try to maybe record yourself with your phone. Make sure that you like the way that you sound, that you're not yelling. Sometimes because the person's not sitting in front of us, we want to make sure that they can hear us. And you may have like a fan in the corner of the room, or there may be this buzzing noise that you hear, and so you're trying to talk over those noises that they can't even hear. So make sure that you try to record yourself and figure out, how do I sound? How do I look? Am I comfortable with everything? And so that's a really big piece of preparing for your interview, because if you're not comfortable, it's going to translate across the interview. And you want to make sure that every single thing that you translate in your interview time is intentional, because this is the only moment that you get face to face with this employer.
Excellent point. So we're going to talk about the different ways of interviewing today. There's several ways. So a lot of times a company will do what's called a phone screening or phone interview. And they'll sometimes just call you on the spot and ask you if you have time, or they may schedule that. Regardless of whichever way they do that, please make sure that you find a quiet room to talk to them. As Mr. Logan stated, sometimes the feedback is not great. Sometimes there's background noise, it's TV, it's kids. I know we're in the house, and sometimes you can't get away from that. But if you can find a nice, quiet place, or at least put a show on for your kids, so you can at least get 10 or 15 minutes to have a phone conversation, that would be great. Make sure your phone is charged. There's nothing worse than being in the middle of an interview and your phone goes out because it's not fully charged. So if you know you have a phone interview coming up, make sure you charge your phone ahead of time. And even better than that, if you have a corded phone, I don't know who still has corded phones, but if you do, if that's you, that will be the time to use it for sure. And again, I mentioned having notes handy. Notes are always good to help you organize your thoughts, even in a phone interview. Make sure you have your notes or your resume handy right in front of you, so that you can always kind of refer back to that, go back and forth between what your notes, what you have as far as notes and what you want to say to the employer. So definitely have notes handy, and have your any type of resume or cover letter, anything like that that you want to discuss. Stand up. A lot of times, because of the way that you sit, it it subdues your voice. So a lot of times, standing up. For those of you people who sing in a choir, you know you're supposed to stand up, and you can project your voice, and you sound better when you stand up. And so that's always more helpful. Stand up and smile. You know, smiling comes through the phone, believe it or not. You may not think so, but it does. The person on the other end can tell when you're smiling. It just something about that. You just feel more upbeat. You sound more upbeat when you're smiling. And be concise and to the point. Don't ramble. Don't try too hard to impress. Answer the questions that they ask you and try to keep it to that. You know, a lot of times employers ask you what's called open-ended questions because they want you to eliminate yourself for the job. So don't give them any reason to do that. Keep it straight to the point, answer the questions that they have, and try not to embellish too much.
Great points, Jimmy. Great points. I love the fact that you talk about standing up and smiling. You can tell when someone is smiling and you're talking to them over the phone, just like you can tell when someone doesn't want to be on the phone and you're talking to them. So make sure that you are able to translate and make sure the employer feels the fact that you really, really want to be talking to them in this moment.
And, you know, one more thing that slide didn't say is to try not to move around, especially with cell phones. If you're on your cell phone, there are parts of my house that I get better reception in than others. And I have a bad habit of pacing, standing and pacing while I'm on the phone. And sometimes you might move into a zone where your phone is not as strong. So be cognizant, be aware, make sure that you stay in an area where your signal is pretty good. So
So face-to-face interviews, we've got these, of course, right now aren't happening as often as they used to. This used to be the norm, and once things go back to normal, they'll probably be the norm again. But right now, you don't have as many face-to-face interviews happening. If they are happening, then they're happening differently. You know, you may have mask on, and so a person may not be able to see any facial cues that you're giving, a smile, a grin, or anything like that. So you want to make sure that you're cognizant of that fact and control maybe the emotions from your eyes and things like that. So one of the biggest pieces is when you're doing these face-to-face interviews, make sure again that you're trying to arrive early to the interview. At least 20 to 30 minutes early, just to make sure that there are no hiccups, no issues, and also so that they can see that you are punctual. The next piece, make sure that you don't make sure that you place your phone on silent, or it's even better to turn it off for the next 30 minutes. And if you hear there's a phone ringing in my background, there's a cubicle here that has a phone in it. Huh. I should have unplugged every single phone before we got on. So make sure again that you try your best to silence your phone or turn it off for the next 30 minutes. Make sure that you don't have any gum or candy or mints during the interview. While it's great to have that in your mouth before. Make sure you take it out as soon, right before you go into the room. You don't want to be talking and trying to, hold a piece of gum to the side of your mouth or under your tongue, and then they can't understand what you're saying. Or the worst thing ever is to be talking and then whatever you're chewing on falls out of your mouth. I'm pretty sure you didn't get that job if that happens. So make sure that you don't put these roadblocks in front of yourself. And lastly, make sure that you're ready to discuss your experience that is relevant to the job requirements. Everything that you've done may not be relevant to this job. So you don't have to waste any time by talking about things that are not relevant to this particular position. Talk about all the wonderful things that you've done that make you a great candidate for this job and this job only. Don't talk about anything that doesn't have anything to do with it. You want to make sure you use your time wisely. Your time is valuable, and you want to show the employer that you understand that their time is valuable as well.
I mean, how perfect with the phone ringing right when you're talking about phones, man.
Right?
Couldn't have timed it any better. So also, face-to-face interviews, keep your answers short and to the point. Like I said, don't ramble, speak clearly, and don't use slang. That's just not professional. It's not professional, and it's not what you would use in the work environment anyway. And so you want to have them have a good opinion of you. And so just make sure, and it just might be that that person might not understand the slang that you said, right? It might think that you're saying something derogatory or something about them. It's just best to kind of keep it as professional as possible. Body language. Body language is so important. You don't want to slouch. You don't want to have crossed legs. You don't want to not have the right eye contact. All of these things are very important. And so just be aware of that. You should practice this. Sit there. Everybody has nervous habits. Everybody has things that they do. I like to shake my legs, because I'm just a nervous person like that. So on my little notes, I'm gonna put "Stop shaking your leg, Jimmy," and that's again a little thing there, very easy to do, just to remind you to stay focused. Make sure you make eye contact. Keep notes to yourself so that way you can remember to do these things. Smile. Always be polite. Always. That just goes without saying, right? You want them to think that you're a great person, and so this is your first date with the employer. All of those things apply. Be aware of that fact. Okay. Listen intently, and again, if you need to, take notes. And a lot of times, listen intently might mean just like leaning forward a little bit for the employer, just to let them know that you're really, really paying attention. And if something was said that you don't quite understand, it's okay to ask. It's okay to restate what they said, just to make sure that there's not a communication gap through this interview. It's very important. The most important thing in a face-to-face interview is to get a card from each person you talk to. If by chance you're in a panel that day, meaning there are four people who interviewed you simultaneously, you should get a card from each of those four people. Because what you want to do at the end is follow up with them with a thank you. And it just might be that that person might like you and help you out with the opportunity, or maybe another opportunity. So it's great to get a card from each person that you talk to.
Good points, Jimmy. Good points. And as you talked a little bit about the panel interview piece, um, this is another piece to the face-to-face interview, but also there are some virtual spaces where there are panel interviews in a virtual setting. So you got to make sure that you're prepared for this. This is again where there are going to be several interviewers talking to you about this job at one time. It's great to make sure that you introduce yourself to each one. If you're in person, make sure that you shake hands, bump fists now, make sure that you make eye contact with each person. But if you're in a virtual setting, make sure that you acknowledge each person who's on the call. Make sure that you have their name correctly, and try your best to say their name back to them. So if someone says, "Hi, my name's Dave. I've got John and Joan here with me. We're all going to be interviewing you together." Make sure you say, "Hello, Dave. Nice to meet you, John and Joan." Make sure that you address each person to make sure that you let them know that you have really good attention to detail, and you try to make sure that you place that personal touch in that moment on everything you do. Make sure again that you make notes of each person's name on your cheat sheet. When responding, make sure that you address each interviewer. And lastly, again, as Jimmy stated, make sure you get a card from everybody or contact information from each person. And after, especially in this virtual space, make sure that you send a thank you or a follow-up email. Just letting them know how great it was to meet everybody, how you enjoyed them taking their time and to interview and talk to you about how you can become a benefit to their company and become the next employee there. So it's all about adding that personal touch to the interview so that after the interview is over, they remember you, they remember the time that they spent, they remember the things that you said, and they remember how you made them feel.
Personal touch. I love that. That's very important. There's one thing I'll tell you about employers is that they hate this process. They hate interviewing. And so they really want to get it over as quickly as possible. And so you want to stand out from the crowd. And as Antonio mentioned, it's great to use the people's names that are there. And so it's nothing wrong with saying, "I'm sorry, is that Dave and Joan?" And write it down on your cheat sheet. So that way you can make sure that you have it and use those names. That personal touch, as he said, goes a long way. Great point. And then lastly, especially in today's environment, we have video interviews. And so, that's interesting in so many different ways. It's almost like a normal interview, except there's technology involved. And so sometimes technology can get in the way. So the first thing you want to always do is make sure your technology works. If there's a special type of, if it's a Zoom call, make sure you have Zoom downloaded. If it's a WebEx call, make sure you have the WebEx app ready to go. There's all kinds of different technology today that people are using. Make sure that you're familiar with it, you took a look at it, and that your device that you're using is capable of working with that different type of platform. And so you're going to prepare like a normal interview. You're going to do your research. You're going to write your cheat sheet. You're still going to have your notes right next to you, your resume, so that you can refer back to it. All that's exactly the same. You want to get familiar with the platform beforehand, and you want to find a good spot. And so there's a lot of different ways to do that. As much as you can. I know that being at home isn't always ideal, and then you need to make sure that you have a good connection, and you make sure that you don't have the kids running around the house. And so there's a lot of things that go into it, but ideally, you want to be somewhere that has natural light. Natural light works the best. All right. You also don't want to have overhead lights. Whenever possible, try not to have lights over your head because that'll create all these weird shadows. And so you also want to eliminate distractions, and if possible, use a headphone. That's going to help you hear better and allow the communication to be better. So the video interviews is what you're seeing a lot of today, and it's nothing to be alarmed about. You still want to dress the part. Just because you're on screen, make sure that you still dress up for it. Again, these are opportunities for you to make a great impression, to stand out from the crowd. Just because you don't have to report to the location for an interview doesn't mean you still take the interview in a t-shirt. Dress the part. You still want to be, presentable, for sure.
Great points, Jimmy. All of them.
Oh, look, there
The
it is.
next piece of the video interview piece, there were so many good points that we had to split it up into two slides. It's important again to dress professionally. Make sure your notes are handy. And some of the pieces when you're talking to folks, especially in a virtual space, sometimes you can get so carried down one little avenue that you forget that you had other things that you wanted to talk about, other pieces that you wanted to pull out to draw their attention to. It's okay to have some talking points down to make sure that you can emphasize those so that you don't forget. So make sure that you write down some things that you want to hit on. If they ask about a certain time when you had to use great leadership, instead of you trying to have to remember off the top of your head, you're at home. They can only see the top half of your body. It's okay to have a little cheat sheet to the right or the left of your computer that you can glance down to every so often and get some notes from. And make sure that you also write down questions for the interviewer. That's really important. When they ask you, do you have any questions for me? Use that time wisely, and it's valuable time. Shows them that you've thought a little bit about it and that you're just not going on, in endless interview after interview after interview, trying to find an employer that's going to finally bring you on. And lastly, make eye contact. It's really easy for us to, whenever we're doing a video interview, to look into the screen and look at ourselves to see what we look like. It happens on when you're FaceTiming all the time. You're looking at your phone and looking at the screen instead of looking at the camera, and so you're not necessarily making that eye contact. So make sure that you try your best to allow your eyes to float up and see the camera instead of looking at the screen, to look at yourself. You look good. You look good. So don't make yourself worry, asking yourself, do I look okay? Is something wrong? Make sure without a shadow of a doubt, you got this, and make that connection with them, that eye-to-eye contact, and it'll just put you that much over the hill when they remember your interview time.
I'm always guilty of looking at the screen.
We all are. We all are.
So mock interviews. A lot of people don't understand the value of the mock interview, but it is so important. And it's important. Anything that you do in life, practice makes perfect. And so the more and more you do this, the more familiar you are with it, the more comfortable you are with it. And the more comfortable you are with it, the more comfortable the interviewer will be. So practice is just so important. And it doesn't matter who you practice with, friend, family, no one, right? Just answer questions and set your camera up and just record yourself answering the questions. And that way you can see little things that you do that you don't even realize. It's mock interviews are so valuable. So a lot of times when if you got to get a friend or family member to interview you, they don't have to come up with questions on the fly. If you Google interview questions, you can ask for specific ones, warehouse interview questions. You'll get more than you need. CNA, GNA interview questions. You'll find a ton of them. There's not there's a wealth of them online. There's not a lack of questions online. There's so many, more than what you'll ever need. And so make them specific to what it is that you're going to, be interviewing for, to make sure that you're answering questions that's relevant to the job. And it just might be the same questions that the interviewer might ask you. It gives you a chance to rehearse your elevator pitch. What's your elevator pitch? So an elevator pitch is the answer to the question, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm a career navigator with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. I've been in this field for over 9 years. I help people find employment. I work exclusively with ex-offenders. The answer to that question. So make sure that you have a chance to rehearse that. Again, practice makes perfect with that elevator pitch. The more you can say it, the better it is. A lot of times we fumble through that, and you're going to fumble through it the first few times. But once you said it 30 times, then you'll be able to say it frontwards to back to front. Doesn't matter. So practice makes perfect. And it also helps you to get more comfortable answering questions in STAR methodology. And so STAR methodology, we're going to break it down a little bit in the slide coming up. STAR methodology stands for situation, task, action, and result. And a question might be, tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult coworker. And you can say this, well, there was a time that I worked at Amazon and I was asked to move the pallets from here to there. And I had a coworker who was having a bad day and didn't want to do it. And so I took it upon myself to just do the work myself and work around this person that was having a bad day. So you talked about the situation and the task you had to do, the action for it. And as a result, we got the work done, and me and this coworker didn't have any conflicts that day. Whatever the case may be, STAR methodology, you can Google it. It breaks it down for you. But that is the most robust way to answer a question when an employer asks you something. Break it down with the situation, task, action, result. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. A mock interview also gives you a chance to receive immediate feedback and critiques from the person who's giving you the interview. And they might just say, hey, Jimmy, that answer that you gave, that didn't even make sense. You didn't even answer the question. You were too busy talking about not creating a conflict with the guy. You never answered the question that I asked. So again, this gives you a chance to get some immediate feedback. So that way, the first time that you have to answer this question isn't in an interview that really is going to cost and work against you. And then you want to gain confidence in answering questions and selling your skills. Again, that's the whole purpose of this interview, is to sell your skills. So the more you do it, the better you'll be.
Good points. Good points. Mock interviews are a really, really valuable resource. Another thing that you can grab from a mock interview is you can take a look at your body language. Pay attention to any unflattering mannerisms that you have. If you have, a tick, biting your lip, a scowl when you're thinking, nervous, tapping, whatever it is. The ladies in my family, unfortunately, have this issue where when they're just sitting there thinking, they can look really upset and really angry. It's not that they're upset. It's not that they're mad. It's just that that's their face when they're not trying to make a face. That's just the face that it goes to. And so, sometimes folks are like, oh no, they're upset. They're mad. What's wrong with them? Nothing's wrong with them. They're just sitting there thinking. And so it's important that you remember that you're cognizant of the fact that, okay, what face am I making right now? Even though I'm not trying to make a face, my face is still there. So what is it doing? What's my lips doing? What are my eyes doing? What are my eyebrows doing? So always be cognizant of that and think of those things. And you want to make sure that you're also being very positive. That's really, really important. Positivity will come across both when you're speaking as well as in your body language. And so it's really important that the best way to portray good body language is to approach the interview with a positive attitude. When you feel positive, you'll be more relaxed. You'll smile more. Your smile won't look forced. Sometimes you see people smile and it looks like it's hurting them. So make sure that you're not one of those folks, and that when folks see you, they can see that you actually are a happy person. And folks always want to work with someone else who's happy. No one wants to work with someone who's upset or angry all the time. Something's always wrong with them. So make sure that you are portraying that you are a great person to be around, and you're going to bring some positive energy to this working environment.
You talk about facial expressions. We have a coworker who you can have an entire conversation with, and she doesn't have to utter a word. Everything that she's thinking, you can see directly on her face.
That is correct. And we are working on it. We're working on it.
So here's that infamous question. Tell me about yourself. It's going to happen. It's probably the first question in every interview. And notice that the employer leaves it so wide open. They don't say, tell me why you're fit for the job. They say, tell me about yourself, because they want you to tell them anything and everything. And so it's your job to make sure that you keep it specific to the job and that you don't give any details or anything about yourself that's going to harm you in any way. So this is not your chance to tell your whole life story. It's just not the place for it. You need a 30-second commercial, and what we call it an elevator pitch. It's your 30-second commercial, who you are, to introduce who you are and what you do. And again, it's great to have an elevator pitch, but research shows that we job seekers have somewhere between 4 and 7 job lives. And so depending on the job life that you're interviewing for, you might have a specific elevator pitch for that, right? I'm a warehouse professional with 5 years of experience in forklift operations, or I'm a CNA GNA with an emphasis of pleasing my customers and patients. Whatever it is, whatever your elevator pitch is for that particular day, for that particular job, make sure that you practice it and you have it ready to go. Write them down. Don't try to do it on the fly. It's too hard to do. And a lot of times you're going to trip yourself up. Write it down so you can rehearse it in your mock interview over and over and over again. And it still doesn't mean that you might say it perfectly at the interview, but the more you rehearse it, the better off it'll be. And practice it and be ready to introduce yourself in that way. A lot of times I have some of the people that I work with create an elevator pitch, practice it, and go to a job fair. That's the best way to do it. I know nobody's doing anything in person today, but the idea is to go from place to place to place and introduce yourself over and over again. The more you do it, the more you say it, the more you practice it, the better off you'll be. That's a very important question, because this is your first impression a lot of times, right? And so you just can't change that first impression once you've made it. And if you have a stellar elevator pitch that really sells who you are and what you're about and what you bring to the table, it is a great first impression to the employer.
Great points, Jimmy. Great points about the elevator pitch. And so when you're talking about that elevator pitch, you've got to figure out a way to actually construct it or put it together. One of the things that one of my professors, one of my comms professors in college told us, he told us to go to Walmart, and we had to go there in groups, and we literally had to pick up products and begin to describe the product in 30 seconds to the folks who were in our group. And so I'm not telling you guys to go to Walmart, but go to your kitchen, pick up an item, and start to describe the item. Make if you have a difficult time talking about yourself or describing yourself, how do I describe myself in 30 seconds? How do I do this? Do it with small items that you use all the time. Do it with a can opener, a glass set, whatever you can find, a Kool-Aid pitcher, whatever it is. Make sure that you remember you got to keep it short. Make sure that you are confident but not arrogant. Arrogance turns people off. Confidence attracts folks. Make sure that you're introducing yourself. Describe what you do. Talk about how you solve problems. That's one of the biggest pieces and largest takeaways that you want them to have from this talk, is that they remember how you solve problems. Make sure you ask yourself, why should the employer care about this information that you're giving them? You want to include examples of any statistics or be able to quantify what you've done. If you were able to, reduce any type of waste at your job by 20%, make sure you talk about that. If you were able to increase profits or increase sales, make sure you're able to talk about those percentage points that you've got. If you have never been late or have never, missed time or called out, make sure you talk about that, because that's really important. And lastly, end with what you're looking for. Always be able to wrap it up and sum it up with what you're looking to do now, how you can be of benefit to them, that you notice that they had an open position that you were really interested in. Make sure that you talk about how now you can work with them or be a part of whatever they're doing at their organization or business.
All good points. You can always Google elevator pitch. Always go to Google and ask for some. So we're just going to give you a couple of them real quick to show you some examples of what some elevator pitches might be. This first one says, I have a decade's worth of experience in warehousing, working primarily with packaging and logistics. I'm certified to use a forklift and have operated a cherry picker for over 5 years. I'd be thrilled to bring my experience and knowledge to your company. Again, short, right to the point. And notice what Antonio said, ending with what I want to do. I want to bring my experience to your company. This one's a little bit longer. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this one because it's very hard to remember. But again, if this is who you are and you want to sell yourself, here's a way to do it. I'm a senior project manager with creative attitude to problem solving. In my current position as chief of project management at Seton Hospital, my recent challenge has been the reduction of stockroom waste. I introduced a new Kanban system and designed lean training programs to be carried out across all departments. We managed to cut stockroom waste by 65%, which ultimately slashed monthly costs by a quarter. I know cost-saving solutions are the infant ward of for the infant ward are amongst your key priorities. I'm sure I can use my expertise to achieve great results with this initiative. Again, wrap up with what you want to do and how you can, as Antonio said, why does the employer care? They care about money. So again, here's an opportunity for you to show them how, if you hire me, I can help you with waste. I can help you improve your bottom line.
That's really, really important, Jimmy. What they care about money. They care about how you can solve their problems. So make sure you talk about those things.
For sure.
The STAR responses. So Jimmy talked a little bit about this earlier. Situation, task, action, and result. So first, starting off with a situation. Many times you'll try your best to use these STAR responses whenever you're given a question like, tell me about a time. Tell me about a time where you had to solve a problem. Tell me about a time where you had to deal with a difficult customer. Tell me about a time when. So make sure you use these types of responses in those moments. So you'll start. There was a time that I worked at ABC Gadgets. I was asked to look at the company's online project file system, which was disorganized and hard to use. I analyzed the system and reorganized it so information was more logically arranged and easier to find. I made coworkers work easier, which saved time and allowed them to serve customers more effectively. So they're literally laying out every single thing that happened. So what the issue was, the situation, what task resulted from that situation, what action they had to take in regards to the task, and what was the result of that action. And so you're telling a great story, a real good synopsis of what went on, what occurred, so that the employer that you're talking to has a good idea of how difficult the issue was and how you stepped up to the plate and handled it.
Notice that these STAR responses end in a positive note, right? You don't want to tell a story that's going to end up with, and that's why I got fired. you know, you, you want to keep them positive and always something where the employer can say, "Oh, well, wow, that's what I need here. I need someone around here who can save time and money."
Exactly.
And then, so one of the first questions to tell me about this. So then there's also some tough interview questions that's just, there is no one answer to that, right? A lot of times they're just going to ask you tough questions, and then you've got to try to answer the question as best as you can. And so a lot of times also tell me about a time you had to overcome an obstacle. Again, you want to always use STAR methodology when you answer any of these questions. And so these are things that you want to prepare for. This is where a mock interview is going to be beneficial for you. So that way you can come up with a great story of a time that you had to overcome an obstacle, and you can tell that story in a STAR methodology without throwing your old employer under the bus or throwing your old coworkers under the bus. And so I'm sure you could find a good story where you had to overcome an obstacle. A lot of times employers ask you, why should I hire you? Again, you want to talk about how you can help them with their bottom line. You know what companies want. They want someone who will help them save time and money. Why did you leave your last job? That's always a tough one. You don't want to talk negatively about your last employer. Maybe it's just that you just needed a new opportunity, and it could just be just that simple. You don't want to talk about how this person didn't know how to talk to women, and this person was racist, and this person was mean. Only is why this person got promoted because their cousin worked there. Don't try to keep it upbeat and positive, and never talk badly about your previous employer, because what'll happen when you leave this employer? They're going to know that you're going to talk bad about them, so they're not going to bring you in. So always, even though these interview questions are tough, you always want to try to stay upbeat and positive as much as possible. So a few more tough interview questions. A lot of employers will ask you, tell me about your weaknesses. What are your weaknesses? And so it could just be as simple as something in your past about a time where you needed to brush up on skills, where you needed to learn a new skill set. Sometimes it's important that you talk about something that you're always striving to do. For example, I think everybody is always trying to fit more into the course of a day. Our days get so busy. So I think everyone is working on their time management. That doesn't mean that you're always late. It doesn't mean that you don't respect time. It just means that there's a lot of things to do and that you're always aware of time. That's just important. Again, these are tough interview questions. They're meant to be tough. And the more you practice them, the better they'll be. Criminal background question. They'll ask you about that. Be honest. Never lie about those opportunities, and focus on the lessons learned and put it behind you. A lot of employers, I work a lot with ex-offenders, and a lot of times employers just want to know that you've learned your lesson and that you're moving forward. Don't try to place the blame on your cousin or who was in the car with you or how the situation played out. Whatever the case may be, if you learned a lesson from that, express the lesson that was learned. That's important. And then another tough interview question is, you haven't worked in a long time, why not? You can explain gaps in employment in many ways. What I tell people is that you're doing something during that period of time. Talk about what you've done that's been progressive, or something that you've done that's been positive. I've taken a lot of time and maybe I've done some home improvement. Maybe I've been working on myself. Maybe I've been home. I've been spending time with the kids. Maybe I've been preparing myself to re-enter the job force. There's nothing wrong with that. You just don't want to say, well, nobody's hired me. You want to try to talk about what you've done during that period of time that's been positive. Anything that you've done, that you've donated your time, that you volunteered for, any of those things are important. And those are experiences that'll help you also fill in the gap during that period of time.
Great points, Jimmy, on these tough interview questions. We all encounter them, and so it's really important to have some tools in your tool belt on how to answer them.
Yeah.
The next piece, do you have any questions for me? Again, we've talked about this before. Make sure you ask the interviewer to discuss a day in the life of this new hire. Ask them how does this position look? What am I going to be doing on a day-to-day basis? What are the difficulties and successes that you see folks in this position have? You may want to know why this position is available. Find out if the previous person may have been let go for any reason, or they were promoted. It may tell you a lot about the culture of the company as well as the environment of this particular position. Make sure that you inquire about the next steps. So, after this, when should I look to hear from you? Will there be a second round of interviews? Will you guys make a decision from this round? Make sure that you find out so that you're aware of what's going to happen, and discuss the methods and time frames for you to follow up. So it's really important that you make sure that you understand how you need to follow up. If it's through email, if there is another piece where they want you to follow up. I remember one day I went for an interview for a position, and I had no idea that it was going to be an all-day event. I only thought that it was going to be like maybe an hour or two, and so they wanted me to sit down, talk to them. Then I had to talk to an entirely separate group of people. Then I had to meet the staff of the folks that I'd be working with. And so what I thought was only going to be an hour or two turned into 6 or 7 hours. So make sure that you have a good handle on, what's going to happen in this interview and the next steps.
It's a long day. Hope you pack a lunch. And so once you find out how they want you to follow with them, follow that. If they tell you call them on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, call them on Tuesday, 9 at 9:45, but at 10 o'clock. Whatever they give you, try to stick to that entirely. But you always want to send a follow-up email within 24 hours. That's the importance of getting a card for everybody, so that you don't have to write everybody's email address down. It's on that card, and it's very easy. And how their name is spelled is very easy. You don't have to guess. Sometimes names are tricky. If you can, a handwritten note is even better. It's hard to do that in this environment that we're in now. So you definitely want to send a follow-up email. You want to do it within 24 hours. And you want to address the main topics. You were looking for someone who's efficient and effective in a warehouse environment. And I just want to remind you of the opportunities that I've presented to my last employer and how I saved them 20% over the course of a year, whatever the case may be. Remind interviewers of the fit and the skills match, what they were looking for. Because again, they might have interviewed 50 people. So it's always positive for you to remind them of why you're the most important person to bring in for the second round of interviews. You want to briefly discuss topics or points that you meant to mention in the interview. That's where notes come in handy. You can always go back to your notes and say, oh, I forgot to mention this and I forgot to say that. No problem. You include that in your follow-up email to make sure that they still get that information, even though you forgot to mention it. And follow up only as discussed. Don't just call if they told you to send an email. If they told you to send an email, send an email. Follow the methodologies they ask you to do. And remember, be careful with social media. Just because you finish the interview doesn't mean that you go then and unlock your page and let everybody in, because they still may look through this process for the next couple weeks. So matter of fact, they probably didn't look at it until after they meet with you. So just be aware of that. Make sure that you keep your Facebook page and all of your social media pages locked down, and that you're not putting in any crazy posts in them.
Really, really good points, Jimmy. So just lastly, remember, make sure that you prepare. Make sure you prepare your resume. Ask yourself, what do you want to do? What type of work would you like to do? Ask yourself, where do you want to work? So after you find out what you want to do, find out where you want to do that at. There are a lot of employers out here. Every employer isn't meant for every person. Just because an employer may be popular doesn't mean that that's the right fit for you. So make sure that you figure out where you actually want to work. Make sure that you network, utilize Facebook, LinkedIn, and other resources available for networking purposes, and then apply. When you go to apply, remember to adjust your keywords, apply, and then use the tips that we just gave you for follow-up.
Awesome. So thanks for joining us today. We love giving this information. We do this every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. We do job preparation and readiness. On Wednesdays, we do virtual recruitments. And like I mentioned earlier, that's my buddy Bill and Katanya Lester. They will have employers on. I wish I knew who was going to be there tomorrow, but it slipped my mind. But tune in at 1 o'clock, Facebook Live on the ones. We always have resources for you to help you in your employment needs. Every Thursday at 1 o'clock, we do Job Club, where there'll be a few of my colleagues on here, and they're going to tell you about who's hiring this week, how to apply, anything that they can help you with that's going to help you to get your foot in the door with these employers, because they are hiring. We've got a bunch of employers that's looking to hire right now.
Yeah, and Jimmy, tomorrow they're going to have Align Staffing and Starbucks on. So make sure you guys tune in for that.
Yeah, very good. Very good. And so if you happen to miss any of our sessions, they will appear below this video on this page. So you can always come and tune in. If you can't hit the live session, you can always come back and see. You can go and look at other events that have happened in the past. And for those of you who need assistance, whether it's resume help, interviewing help, if you need to be referred to an employer, technical job application assistance, training information, we've got a lot of training funds that we're looking to send people. This is a great opportunity for you to enhance your skills before you go back into the job market, or just career guidance. That's what we're here for. Here's the link right there. It's been scrolling at the bottom for this whole entire session. Send us a request form and we will help you. Someone will get right back to you and we can help you with all of these different things. And so with that, I want to thank you, Mr. Logan, for joining me today and giving us this great information to our job seekers out there. Hopefully we can find some people some jobs today.
Yes. Best of luck, everybody. Thanks, Jimmy, for having me on. Everyone, please enjoy the rest of your day. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Have a good day.